This is a short video to help us with organizing and archiving our images. And this is just a suggestion. This is how I like to organize my work, but it's also a way of using the structure of the course and the assignments to help us understand how we could overlay or analogize those to how we might organize our own photo catalogs. So using a Mac, I'm gonna open up a Finder window. I'm gonna go to an area on my computer, it's called Data, where I'm going to create a series of folders to help us understand a logic to organizing, and this logic is going to be based on what we've been talking about in terms of workflow. So for this assignment, I'm going to call this assignment long 1. This is the one we've been working on. And this long 1 could be in your own photo catalog, maybe family. And underneath family, you might have subfolders like travel or pets or mom and dad or children. And then from there, you would have subfolders that would work more with what we're talking about in terms of workflow. So I have long 1. In a Macintosh interface, we have a variety of ways of looking at our file structure, our folders that are on our computers. We have a thumbnail view, we have a list view, we have a column view, and then we have this kind of slideshow view. I'm going to start with this column view, which is one that I like. And you have a variety of ways of creating a folder. When I created a folder a second ago, I used a key command, Shift Command N. Shift Command N. That created a new folder, which is also here, New Folder, Shift Command N. You can also, in a Finder window, find this cogwheel and say New Folder here as well. So in column view, when I've selected a folder, if I create a new folder, it'll create a folder underneath that folder. So for us, we're going to generate 4 different folders for each part of this assignment. So I'm going to say this is part 2. Actually, we're going to be working on part 1 first, and we'll move into part 2, and I'll show you that as a reiteration. So under here, again, new folder. We're going to download all our unedited files into a folder called RAW. RAW is a file format, but I like to use that also as a term that says these images are completely untouched. They're just straight from my camera to the SD card to my computer. So I'm not editing directly on these images. I'm going to save them in other formats. So I'm going to come back to part 1, this folder, and I'm going to create another folder under here. In the workflow sequence, we move from RAW to Photoshop. So I'm going to put PSD, which is a Photoshop document. Under this part 1 again, I'm going to create another one called print. Now we may go to, I'm going to show you how to create files for print, but we're later in the course going to talk about doing some online printing. And then our final stage for us, especially because we're creating websites, is we're going to create what would be called a web folder, and I'm going to also call this JPEG so we remember. JPEG again is another file format. I should also up here, if you wanted to, under print, you could call this one TIFF. Those are 2 different formats for files that have a variety of options available to them. TIFF is an uncompressed file format, and JPEG would be a compressed file format. A lot of that we'll get to technically later, so don't worry too heavily about it now. So if I wanted to come back here and start another folder called part 2, I could, if I wanted, if I haven't put anything in here yet, I could drag these over to part 2, or sorry, drag them and copy them. If I hold down the Alt key, it allows me to copy those. So now the same empty folders are in both zones, and again, if I created part 3 I'm creating a raw, a PSD, a print/TIFF, and a web/JPEG. Now again, you have the ability to look at these in thumbnail, list view, column view. Why I like column view is because it shows me the path to where I've gotten to this folder and where I'm going, so I can always see what folder is under what folder. Again, these are analogous to how you might organize your images in your own photo library. So we could definitely superimpose and see this being vacations, New York City, Chicago, LA, and the subfolders for those.